At 3:47 hours on January 24th, 2026, alarm clocks shattered the silence aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Deep within the Combat Information Center, radar operators watched in disbelief as multiple missile signatures appeared on their screens. Iran had just launched what they believed would be a devastating strike against America's most powerful warship. What the Iranians didn't know is that they had just made the worst mistake of their military history. They targeted the wrong carrier. This is the story of how Iran's entire missile strategy was exposed, humiliated, and neutralized in less than 4 minutes. To understand why this happened, you need to know what has been brewing in the Persian Gulf for months. When the USS Abraham Lincoln arrived in the region in September 2025, it wasn't a routine deployment. The carrier strike group was responding to escalating Iranian aggression. For years, Iran had been building what they called the carrier killer arsenal. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, all designed for one purpose: to sink an American supercarrier. Iranian military commanders had publicly boasted that their missiles could strike any U.S. carrier within range. They called American carriers floating coffins and sitting ducks. But here's what Iran's leadership didn't understand. The Abraham Lincoln wasn't the same carrier their intelligence had studied for decades. In 2024, the Lincoln completed a modernization that made it one of the most advanced warships ever deployed. It featured new radar systems, upgraded missile defenses, and something the Iranians had never encountered: a fully integrated naval integrated fire control system that could track and destroy threats at ranges previously thought impossible. Iran's military intelligence was operating on outdated information. They thought they knew what they were attacking. They were catastrophically wrong. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps had been waiting for this moment. For months, they had tracked the Lincoln's movements and positioned missile batteries along the Strait of Hormuz. They had practiced this exact scenario hundreds of times. Their plan was sophisticated, at least by Iranian standards. First, they would launch a wave of decoy drones to overwhelm the carrier's radar. Then, in the chaos, they would fire their most advanced ballistic missiles, the Fateh 110 and the newer Desful missiles. These missiles are capable of reaching speeds of Mach 4. The Iranians believed they had cracked the code. They calculated that even American defenses couldn't stop this many incoming threats simultaneously. But there was a fatal flaw in their thinking. The USS Abraham Lincoln wasn't alone. It was the centerpiece of Carrier Strike Group 3. This included the guided missile cruiser USS Mobile Bay, equipped with 122 vertical launch cells. It was loaded with SM-2 and SM-6 missiles, the most advanced ship-based anti-ballistic systems in the world. The destroyers USS Fitzgerald and USS Sampson each carried 96 additional launch cells. And lurking somewhere beneath the Gulf surface were 2 Virginia-class attack submarines. The Iranians thought they were attacking a carrier. They were actually attacking a floating fortress surrounded by the most sophisticated defensive network ever assembled. At 3:43 hours, Iranian forces began their assault. Radar stations aboard the Lincoln detected the first wave. 23 Shahed 136 drones launched from the coast. In the Combat Information Center, the Tactical Action Officer made a call that would prove decisive. Engage with secondaries. Save the standards for the ballistic threats. The Lincoln CIWS phalanx systems, those white dome-shaped guns, spun up to 4,500 rounds per minute. The destroyer's 5-inch guns began coordinated fire. Within 90 seconds, every drone was destroyed. But this was just the opening act. At 3:45, the main event began. Iranian ballistic missile batteries in the Zagros Mountains lit off. 8 Desful missiles, each carrying a 450-kilogram warhead, arched into the night sky at Mach 4. Simultaneously, mobile launchers near Bandar Abbas fired a salvo of 6 Fateh 110 missiles. 14 missiles were now heading directly toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. This was Iran's Sunday punch, their best shot, and everything they had practiced. And here is where everything went wrong for Tehran. The Aegis combat system aboard the USS Mobile Bay had been tracking those batteries for hours. The moment those missiles launched, the system already had firing solutions. Vampires! Vampires! 14 inbound! called out the radar operator.
As you
The
can see
response
here,
was
the
instant
carrier is
and
holding
overwhelming.
position.
The USS
Our
Mobile
intel
Bay
confirms
launched
this.
8 SM-6 missiles. These aren't ordinary interceptors. They can engage ballistic missiles at ranges exceeding 150 miles and can be retargeted mid-flight. The USS Sampson and USS Fitzgerald each launched 4 SM-2 Block 4 missiles as a secondary layer, but the US Navy wasn't taking any chances. Something the Iranians had never anticipated then happened. The Lincoln launched 2 EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets that were already airborne. These aircraft carry the most sophisticated jamming equipment in the world. As Iranian missiles screamed toward their target, their guidance systems suddenly went haywire. GPS signals were jammed. Terminal radar seekers were blinded by electronic noise. Of the 14 missiles launched, 8 were destroyed in the boost phase by SM-6 interceptors. 4 lost guidance and tumbled into the Gulf. 2 were engaged by SM-2 missiles in the terminal phase. Not a single Iranian missile came within 30 meters of the USS Abraham Lincoln. Total engagement time? 3 minutes and 47 seconds. The Iranians had spent years preparing for this attack. They had expended their most advanced weapons and accomplished absolutely nothing. Within hours, the entire world knew what had happened. US Central Command released a statement confirming the engagement. They didn't gloat. They didn't need to. The results spoke for themselves. Inside Iran, the Revolutionary Guard scrambled to control the narrative. State media initially claimed the attack was a, quote, warning shot, and they had chosen not to destroy the carrier. Nobody believed them. Intelligence analysts worldwide drew the same conclusion. Iran's entire anti-carrier strategy was built on assumptions that were decades out of date. Their missiles couldn't penetrate American defenses, and their targeting data was wrong. But the real blow came next. In the 72 hours following the failed attack, U.S. submarines tracked every Iranian naval vessel that left port. B-2 bombers from Diego Garcia flew deterrence missions over the Gulf. And the USS Abraham Lincoln? It continued its patrol, as if nothing had happened. The message was clear. You took your best shot. You missed. And now you know exactly how outclassed you are. Iran learned 3 lessons that night. First, American carrier defenses are even more capable than previously believed. The SM-6's ability to engage threats during the boost phase changes everything. Second, electronic warfare has become a decisive factor. The EA-18G Growlers neutralized an entire salvo without firing a single kinetic weapon. Third, and most importantly, attacking a U.S. carrier strike group is not just difficult. It's suicide. The Iranians thought they had a carrier killer arsenal. What they really had was an expensive way to prove American naval superiority. They launched missiles at the wrong carrier and discovered that in 2026, there is no right carrier to attack. If you want to see more videos about American naval dominance, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. And if you think Iran's allies learned anything from this disaster, wait until you see what happened when the Houthis tried the same thing. That video is on your screen right now.